Gaffer, in a season like no other, with no fans in the terraces, they've sent in some questions about the season so far, and I guess the best way to start is Liam Green's actually asked the best and worst parts of being Crawley Town manager this season.
Obviously the best part's just being the manager of the club. It's a shame that the fans wasn't here, but when you walk around the place and you being local as well, we're just custodians of it. And that's been good. The worst part is looking at some of the results where we should have done better. But also when we're looking, I would say the injuries and the things that the fans don't see, and the COVIDs, the lads that went down with COVID, and we think that you're getting yourself settled and then something jumps up, and we've had to make changes and do changes, which is really forced upon you with the squad that we had, and compliment to every man of them that they bought into it. And we did have to play players out of position sometimes just to fill in a shirt for us, because we was that low on the ground sometimes.
It was such a strange season with the COVID and with the injuries that hit, but a lot of questions that have been very similar that people have asked is, as a manager of Crawley Town, what was it like dealing with the COVID day in, day out? What was it like with the virus?
It was just, I think it's the same as the whole world. It was just weird, because everybody's, first of all, football never stopped, because I thought a couple of the lads, including myself, we was really ill over the Christmas before COVID was even brought out. And you think it's cold, you think it's the flu, it's never. Then you see what it's doing all around the world, and you suddenly think, God blimey, football takes second. It's a second thing. When you see what the pressure, it's hard to think back now, but the pressure that the doctors and the nurses and everything else was under. I think football was really, it was always been, with football there's nothing that'll ever stop football. And when it started doing it, you think, well, this is serious.
And it also put a lot of pressure on the medical team here at Crawley Town, who did an amazing job throughout the season to get us through. Yeah,
that's what I say. It was just, it was so weird. It was really strange, because obviously everybody, you couldn't go out, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. And yet you're still looking at fixtures and you're still phoning the lads up. We've done a lot of Zoom calls, like fitness sessions and all that Joel done. And it was just seeing the lads and everybody. You're coming into work or coming into train every day, and you're not seeing the faces and the people around you. It was really strange. But as I say, we've got, touch wood, hopefully we got through it. And a lot of people that suffered a lot worse than we did. So we're just happy that hopefully we're through the worst of it.
One question we got was from Ruben Watts, and he said, how did fans not being in the stadium affect the players? A lot of smaller fan-based clubs actually did well this season, he says.
It was weird, because at first it was, well, everyone will be back in soon, but it was it's strange, because we never had a pre-season. We had 2 weeks. 2 weeks was all we had, and we had our first game. And everybody who knows anything about players' fitness and things like that, it takes you 5-6 weeks to get yourself going. Well, we had our pre-season. I kept trying to explain to people that a lot of our pre-season games, the first couple of games, especially the first, I would say 4 or 5, was really pre-season friendlies. And we was learning things about the shape and learning things about the players, and obviously the lads that wasn't fit was getting fitter, and shape was taking place all over the place, and at the same time you've got to win matches because you're being judged on it. So that was really really difficult.
It was such a quick start to the season. I think we got chucked right in against Millwall, then we had Gillingham, and then we opened the season against Port Vale. It all came so quickly in the end.
That's what I say. And we picked up a couple of injuries to start with, and you're thinking, God blimey, because it never ended properly for us, because we was on such a good roll and doing really well, that you're thinking, well, let's just kick on. But you couldn't, because the lads, everybody knew what we wanted to do, but we was just second best a lot of, not as a team second best in general. You're looking at it and you're thinking, we've got to, but we knew that we would improve. We knew that, because the lads was getting it in their legs through the training.
We opened the season with a really tough game actually up at Port Vale. What were your thoughts after having such a short pre-season after that result?
I thought Port Vale would win the league. Shows you what I know.
I think you said, yeah.
Because they bullied us. They was too strong for us. It was a good learning curve for some of the lads as well. I don't think Tom was involved then. I think
he
Tom
might have come on as a sub later on.
He was on the bench, and so we were still finding our feet. And you look at it and you're thinking, God, if this is what we got to put up with, tin hats on all for the rest of the season. That was on the back of getting beat by Millwall and going to Gillingham and losing 2-1, and they were tough games. And I think all that was in about a week period. So you've had 3 games after not having a pre-season, and you're so concerned about getting injuries and about making sure that you don't rush it, because there was enough trouble going on with the COVID, because every other minute as well you're looking that you're going to be closed down. We couldn't train properly, there was groups that you couldn't, certain things you couldn't do at the training ground, certain things you could do same for everybody, but we just had to adapt and we had to learn pretty quickly.
I think after such a short pre-season, those tough fixtures actually might have worked in our favour in the end. We came back strong, we beat Scunthorpe at home and then travelled up to Oldham and got a good win there.
Well, I don't think they can ever work in your fixture when you get beat. It would have worked in our fixture even better if we would have won. But no, I wouldn't. I just think that the fixtures that we had, it doesn't matter who we would have played. You can't force your fitness. You can't do 8-9 weeks work in 2 weeks. It's impossible. And plus the time that we had off for the COVID, I think some of the lads, it worked out that I think we finished in March, and the first time we see each other was in August. And as a football side, that's unbelievable. It never happened, and let's hope it never happens again.
How was it for you as well as a manager, working over Zoom and doing all this online stuff instead of seeing your players in person?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you, I just used to poke. Joel used to do it, or I used to sit there spying on everybody because I'm not the most technical, and there's nothing you can do. You just sit there looking at everyone going, oh yeah, look, his hair's getting long, or he needs a shave, or this, that. The lads bought into it because it was just nice that they was doing all the fitness stuff.
And I remember actually earlier on in the season we had those 2 incredible 4-0 home wins against, I think it was Morecambe, who were top of the league at the time, and Tranmere, who were up there and who are now in the playoffs. Unbelievable fixtures they were.
Well, once again, I think a certain person come on against Morecambe at half time. By that time, we were still obviously losing Ollie Palmer. We were still searching for a striker. And we, there wasn't anyone that fit the bill, and we knew Max from past clubs that he's been with, and we tried to arrange, which we're going to do next year hopefully, friendlies, so that the lads that are not playing, we try and have 1 or 2 a month. And we played Maidstone, and Max was playing, and I knew his dad and anything. Anyway, long story. We signed him, and he done well against the Arsenal, because we played Arsenal, I think, before.
Yep, and he scored in that one.
So we were short. And it was the best coaching decision, the manager decision I've ever made in my career at half time, to bring Max on against Morecambe. Because he come on and I think scored 2 goals. So yeah, from my point of view, I take all the credit for that. We made a substitution, brought Max on, and the rest is history. It also helped that Nadesan pulled his hamstring, so we had to bring him on. So that's how it affects you. I'm saying that with a bit of tongue in my cheek, so to speak, but that's how it happened. And it wasn't a magical decision. Max and the team, they worked really, really hard. He's come on and grabbed his chances, and the rest is history. It gives everybody a lift at the time. And we went on and beat these sides that were supposedly, they are massive, bigger budgets than us, and this, that, and the other. That's all I kept hearing. But little old Crawley's going to these places and bashing them up, which I'm pleased about.
We know how difficult it is to be a striker in League 2 and to score so many goals, but it was just incredible how Max came in so quickly and just started firing. He looked so natural in the team.
It's one of them. Maybe we made it look too easy. But, Lee done a lot of work with him as well. Lee Bradbury, obviously, Lee was a good striker in his day. The lads, Tom Nichols, I think, created a lot of his goals. The other lads, Nadesan. But the thing that we was finding with Max, he wasn't fit enough to play full games. Because you imagine, this is a lad that never even done a pre-season, less than what we'd done. So the last thing you want, when he started getting on the roll, the last thing you wanted to do is burn him out, or him pick up an injury, because already we're beginning to look like we're getting settled and we're getting ready to go, and the last thing you want to do is force injuries on people.
It looked a real great partnership actually between himself and Tom Nichols, who actually this season created the most chances in League Two.
Yeah, well, when I brought Tom in, you know, Tom's a very good footballer, and like all the players that we brought in, we knew them as characters. They got to fit in the dressing room. They got to be good round the place. They got to want to play. They're not knocking anybody in the past, but they're not just down it for a pound note. They want to play for the club. And we try to change that very, very quickly when we came in, Lee, that if you don't, you know, like what we're doing or like what we're trying to do, well, don't stay here. Simple. If you don't want to buy into it, then go. You know. And yeah, for that little golden spell, for want of a better word, it really set us up. But as I kept saying, and I kept getting a bit of stick for it about winning, it was more or less getting us away from the relegation, because we knew, well, I knew in my heart of hearts that we wasn't quite ready to challenge for the top because of the other sides, what they've got in reserve. We hadn't, and we were slowly building that. But it is what it is, you know. You're Crawley and you'll never be able to. Well, I say you'll never be able to. Some of the, you know, the money that some clubs were throwing about this year was obscene.
And soon enough, obviously, after a strong start to the league, we travelled down to Torquay, and well, what day that was. What were your memories of Torquay?
Torquay, obviously working there and being at Exeter for a while, it was nice to go back there, but it was all I remember was in temper again. I think when they went 5-3 up, I kicked the bloody water and it was full of ice and that, and I'd done my knee in, so I was limping around. It was just one of them games. It's easy to say, but it was a typical cup game. You know, it was like a boxing match. Well, the only way we was going to win it was to knock them out. And to be fair to our lads, you know, a lot of other teams would have melted. And it showed then the steeliness and because we lost the goalkeeper, you know, Nels had to come on. That's a story in itself, because we only signed Nels Sunday morning. Because the FA, we was waiting for his registration, because if we didn't get him through, our reserve goalkeeper on the day would have been Danny Ballman.
Yeah.
So Dan, obviously when Tom got done, Dan would have been coming on as a goalkeeper. It's the way that things go, you know. Other than that, you know, he played in the midfield, Danny, and you know, when you look back on it now and you look at the 6-5, you keep thinking, well, when's the ref going to blow up? It's got to finish in a minute, and we keep coming back. And I think we've shown that all year, to be honest.
A question we've got actually relating to Danny Ballman. A lot of people have asked about next season. Obviously, we've said we're in negotiations.
Yeah.
Does Danny want to keep playing, or is he going to focus more on his coaching?
I got a meeting with Dan. Obviously, we keep in touch all the time, and I just think he's having a little chill out at the moment. We got a meeting with him next week to sit down and see where he wants to do and what we can offer, and then we'll just play it by ear. But you know, everybody knows it was funny because in my first time here, we was the ones that brought Danny to the club. We got him from Wycombe Wanderers. So it's funny that we've gone full cycle, like with Dan, from starting, say, to speak, at Crawley and finishing at Crawley. But listen, there'll be hopefully something to get sorted for Dan. I think he deserves it. He's a bit of a, you know, he is Mr. Crawley.
Yeah, club legend. And well, I remember actually the second round when we got tied against Wimbledon, the impact that Danny Ballman made. He came straight into the midfield, and another fantastic away win that was to get us into the third round. Yeah,
well, this is what I'm saying, and this is little old Crawley, who, you know, you shouldn't be doing things like this. You shouldn't be going. Once you go 2 goals down, you got to get beat. You know, like we did at Torquay. No, we don't get beat. We keep going right to the end. Wimbledon, a lot of pressure was on them to win it, I think, at the time. New stadium, new this, new that. And I think we went there, and once again, we come away with a 2-1 victory, and that carries on, the momentum goes on.
I think in that Wimbledon game as well, we were without George Frankham, the captain, without Tom Nichols, but we brought in the likes of Nick Cerula and David Cisse, who played really well on the day.
Well, that's what I'm saying about the squad. You know, it wasn't that the in depth that we had were players like Cisse and like Nick, who hadn't played a lot, and you couldn't overplay them all the time, because if you did, your backup would then have no backup, if that makes sense, because we didn't have that fitness levels and the strength levels, and the experience is what we would, you know. I sort of like try and thrive on that. You get your experienced players, you try and put your best team out on the pitch every week. Now, if we knew that, for argument's sake, you lose George's experience, hence why Danny came in, things like that. Well, you've got to be able to talk Nick and Cease and that through the games and help them, and that's without any of the other young lads playing.
One good thing about the transfer window back in last summer was the leaders that we brought in, the likes of Tony Craig coming in, Tom Nichols coming in, some really experienced pros that really boosted the younger lads in the team. Well,
that's what I tried for. You know, we're still lacking it. You never stop improving, and you can't put old cliches again, but you can't put an old shoulder on young head. What's the saying? You can't put a young head on old shoulders.
Yeah.
But anyway, trying to be technical, we'll get back to where I am. No, the lads, I've known Tony, you know, we've known all the players that we brought in, we knew, you know, and I knew that we, you know, with Big Joe here and George and Bully and even Youngie and that round the place, you have a good mixture, because we did have to go younger for budget restraints, you know, you've all got to fit into what we got. It's like Max and play people like that, you know, make no mistake about it, a lot of it was down to the budgets. And so you try and build your spine with the players that you know, without giving too much away, that you need to be playing every week, with the ones that you know that if you can get 20, 25 games out of each of them, you've done well. But the secret is to balancing them all up, because we haven't got the money that certain clubs have, where you can have 2-3 players for every position.
Was that your main kind of thought process in pre-season, to bring in players that you had past relationship with and you knew that you could trust on the field, on and off the field, I suppose?
Well, and local players as well, because you don't, you know, we couldn't. Me and Lee, where I'd come from the Bournemouth ways, and where Lee's obviously, you know, where he was at Avon and at Eastbourne, we had a good mixture of people that we know, because Lee knows players, I know players. We haven't really tapped into that. Because the lads that we knew and the lads that we existed from the year before, we knew that 4 or 5 would make a good mixture, would make a good squad. And as it happens, that turned out like that. And because I knew that the lads that we brought in and around, what the fans don't see, you know, it's easy to be critical of a player on the pitch, or what's he doing, or what. You see them in and around the training ground, because good pros attract good pros. And you need good pros around young players, because if you get the ones that are out on the boozing and doing what they're doing and showing them the wrong habits, nothing wrong with that, but you don't do that at this football club. And if you don't show them the right things to do in and around the training ground, you know what? The kids won't do it. Then all of a sudden you've got anarchy again, because nobody cares. Well, no, you've got to care about what you're doing, otherwise, you know, none of them would have been here.
One player that's really shone this season and that the fans have really enjoyed watching is Jack Powell, and we know that last season he was out on loan at Aldershot in the National League, but he's really come through this season alongside Jake Hessenthaler, who he obviously knew before he signed.
Yeah, well, you know, bringing Jake in as we did, I knew Jake, and we had a mixture there, and Jack, I think's grown up. I've known Jack for many years, and he's finally grown up. You know, he's got kids now. He's a family man now, Jack. He ain't young lad who's, you know, playing around the game. He knows now he's got to, you know, get his head right and be serious at it, which he has been, as ever more. And it was funny, because at the end of the season I said to all the lads, you're not the kids anymore. Next year you become the senior players, for want of a better word, with the amount of games. I think Heskey played 51 games last year.
Yeah, most cap player in the team.
Yeah. And Jack was the same. I think Jack had a right fair go, and when we was here, when we came in, Jack was I don't even think he was around. You know, I think he was, you know, out here and on loan or whatever he was doing. But it's a compliment to Jack that he's worked his socks up and got himself, you know, really his head right more than anything. And like I say to you, he's a family man now, and he wants to prove that. And we all know that as you get older and you do what you do, your priorities change, don't they? And I think Jack now realises that there is a family he's got to look after.
I think the fans were very happy to see the likes of Jack Powell and Jordan Tunnicliffe and Tom Nichols all getting their extensions triggered by the club and staying on for next season. Yeah,
there's still a lot of work to be done with it. But no, listen, you know, without being too controversial, I would have loved Big Joe to stay. But that, once again, that wasn't. It was a bit of a decision that wasn't taken very. What's the word? There was a lot of toing and froing on that decision. Put it that way.
Yeah.
But Joe was fantastic for us, and he was great round the place. And it's very difficult. It's not all about performances, and I know that's going to sound really stupid because that's what you're judged on. But as a manager or a coach, I like to have people around me that I know you can trust, and that, like I just said, who are going to be good round the training ground. They're good influences for the young uns. Now, if other people can't see that, well, then that's up to them. But I wish Joe all the best.
I think actually it was a common theme within the fan base as well. They were sad to see Joe go, sad to see David Cisse go as well. Yeah,
Cisse and T, it's a difficult one because once again you're balancing books. You know, Crawley of old, go back 3 or 4 years, I was throwing money around like anything. Well, that ain't happening anymore. And I don't think that. I'm not party to what's gone on in the past, and good luck to anybody who had that, but we haven't been given nowhere near the money that they've had in the past, so you've got to cut your cloth accordingly. And unfortunately, sometimes the surplus falls on the decisions that we made to get rid of people. And that they just fell in the side. But Cease and that, they get clubs, they'll be all right, I would think. But we've got to move on and hopefully replace, or people have got to step up and perform.
But luckily, I think for next season we've kept the real core of the group. It will be a very similar group next season. A lot of the fans are asking, where in the squad do you want to strengthen up? What positions are you looking at to try and buy players in the summer?
We won't buy anyone. That's the first thing. So we've all got a wish list, but as we're talking at the minute, we haven't really. I don't really know budget-wise what we're doing. We've got targets that we're looking at. But we definitely I think we need another forward, without a shadow of doubt. Possibly there still might be 1 or 2 that's leaving. You've always got to keep that in your back of the mind, especially after having a successful season that the club has, that 1 or 2 might get bought. So you're then looking to replace them. So it's going to be a very, very funny season. You've only got to look at some of the clubs, the amount of players that they're releasing. There's loads and loads of players out there, but it's getting the right ones that fit into what we want to do. But I think everybody knows it's no secret that you lose a striker like Max, who was scoring the goals, and Nadders needs help up there, Tom needs help up there. You've got young David who's come in, who scored his first pro goal. You've got to back these people to go on, but do you need an old head, as I've just said? I think we do.
Another question asked, and I promise it's not by the players themselves, but it's, can we expect to see more of Sam Ashford and Tyler Frost next season?
Hopefully, if they stay fit. Tyler's had his injuries, Sam's had his injuries. I think in Sam's case it was a bit, and Tyler, because they've stepped up. He's stepped up from under 23 football, and Sam's come in from non-league. It's been very difficult for them to keep the consistency going. But they've got to next year. They've got to step up. They've got to be ready for the first team. Otherwise, it's pointless them being here. It's pointless any player being here. I try not to bring anybody here unless, I wouldn't bring anybody here unless they're ready, and we've got to get them ready for first team football. If they don't reach that levels, then unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast. They've got to go.
If we look back to that Wimbledon win, it was another fantastic away win, and we had so many more of them last season compared to previous seasons. Our away record really improved.
Yeah, well, people was telling me this before, and getting back to one of the original questions there that we never answered properly, but I picked up on that. I think that's where there's no fans in the ground, because it was very difficult to distinguish when you was at home or when you was away.
Yeah.
Because that's why I get a lot of stick for using me and Lee, by the way, some of the language and some of the things that but you don't realise that there's nobody, that you have to try and create that atmosphere within the team, whether that's by shouting, screaming, or whatever it is, because a lot of managers are all saying the same. You have to try and generate your own atmosphere. So when you're, for argument's sake, at Bolton and we're winning 1-0 and there's 10 minutes to go and they're peppering us, well, you ain't got 20, 23 or 15,000 people from Bolton all screaming at you to score. Where you got nobody there and we're all screaming at ourselves to make sure that we don't concede, well, you can hear that a lot more. So possibly it helps, but then when you come to home, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. But it's a strange one, mate, but let's hope the crowds come back next year and we all know what's going on.
The build-up to Leeds was brilliant with the Forest Green win, with the Bolton win. We've actually got a question asking, apart from that Leeds win, what was your favourite game of the season? What game did we perform the best in?
I think Forest Green was very good away from home. Bolton was good away from home for different reasons. We showed a different steely side of us.
Yeah.
Because we was getting a little bit of stick about we was weak and we couldn't hold on to Leeds, and then the next breath we're talking about we can't score, and then the next thing people are moaning that we're giving goals away. And to do that little purple patch, Tranmere was good. We done a double on Tranmere. Bradford, we done well up there when Big Joe got the second goal because they was flying. And when you look at the sides that we took a lot of the points off at the top, when you then go, no disrespect to Southend and to Grimsby, but when you only pick 2 points up against them two, well, you don't deserve to go up. You don't deserve to be in a, you know, I keep saying it all year, you are where you are. You know, that's where you got to be. You got to be there because that's where you are. That's where you deserve to be, otherwise you wouldn't be there. So you learn from that, hopefully.
That's another question that we've actually had a lot is, why is it that we were so good against the bigger sides and then we played the sides that were lower down in the table and we seem to struggle more than when we played the likes of Bolton and the likes of Forest Green?
If I knew that, we wouldn't be doing it.
And that's what I thought.
Maybe, see, as the season built up, we was becoming to be a bit of a scalp for the lower sides, for everybody. We was a team. When you pick the team sheet up and you see Max Waters and you see Naderson and you see Tom Nichols on there, you're going to think, if our defence ain't on it today, we're going to be in trouble because you've got pace all around. You then look at our back four at the time with Tony, with Tunney, with George, Dallow, Big Joe when he came in, all these people, you're thinking, we got to be on our game. Then you got Powley and Heskey in there that are up and down all over the place. Sam Matthews when he's on, but little Jake Heskey. We had a side that people were setting up differently against us. And maybe, just maybe, sometimes we got a little bit. Did we believe our own chip paper? Sometimes, I don't know. Did we get bullied a little bit? I think we did. But you know that's why it's very, very difficult to win leagues. You know, you're judged on 40 odd games a season, not just 1 or 2. Did we fall short? Expectation wise, I think we did when you look what we've done. But then at the same token, no one gives you a God-given right to go out there and win a game of football. You've got to be 100%, the big C word, the consistency word. And that's what we was lacking.
A name that you mentioned that's been thrown about quite a lot is Jake Heskey. The fans have noted that obviously he's out of contract at Southampton. Would there be any way for him to come back? We know how hard he faced with his injuries this season, but
I speak to Jake. I must speak to him every 2 weeks. Absolutely loved his time here. Southampton was decent with him. I've never seen a lad that you think, go on, he's over it. He's had the bad luck that he's had. That reflects again on the side. You know, it's easy to be critical of me picking certain people or this, that and the other, but like I just said, you think you've got yourself side and something this season has always upset you. And that's not knocking the players that come in, because it gives them an opportunity then to come and show what they can do.
Yeah.
When you want to put your best 11 out and you're looking around the injury room and you're looking around everywhere else thinking, why ain't he fit? Why ain't that one? And then you're throwing people in there that you know you're going to learn more about, and they've got to play games. Because once again, getting back to your fitness, it's no good having 12 fit of, you know, that playing every week. You've still got another 9 or 10 that you need to be fit. So we was doing a fitness program, you know, which the lads, you know, obviously the fans weren't aware of. This is all through the COVID scenarios and all that still going on, the protocols you have to follow, which was hard to do because you had to split this up and do that. But it is what it is, and I'd love to see Jake back here.
Yeah, and it showed a lot in the Leeds game. When we had all of our defenders fit aerially, we were very solid. We had Dallow at left back and Frankham at right back, and it allowed Nick Strules to go on and play a bit more advanced in that game. Yeah,
well, that's the way we set up. We worked against Leeds. We see a little way that we played that I wanted to play against them, and we worked on that. Me and Bradders and Lewis and that, we sat down and we got our nuts together, and you know, it didn't just happen. We worked on it, and lo and behold, it come off. And I don't think that we wasn't lucky. We didn't ride our luck. We didn't do anything. We just showed what a good, you know, performance it was. But not only that, the lads bought into it again, as they've done all season. You know, and they've tried it. We don't try and give them you can't do or you can do, but there's a way that you have to play with the players that we got available, and against Leeds it worked very well.
Before the game, obviously against Leeds, what was said in the dressing room? What were the main messages you were giving to lads before the game? Was there a real belief that we could go on and win it?
Of course there is. There was a belief that we could win every game that we're in. You never set up to lose any game. You know, we got FA Cup, as I said, it makes people's careers, it makes people's lives. And the one thing that we found about Leeds, in my opinion, with Leeds, they press you very high. And someone said to me after the game, you know, well, Leeds didn't do their high pressing game, and I said, well, really, to high press, the other team's got to have the ball. Well, we never had the ball a lot. We wanted Leeds to have most of the ball. Well, why? And I said, well, because why? Because then they can't press us. So they had players without going into the coaching side. We was pressing them from the halfway line, and we broke. That's how we scored our goals, because they was sort of like, well, what do we do now? We always get pressed. Other teams always try and press us. How can we try and press Leeds United? We get popped around like kids in a sweet shop. So I said, no, we just sit there and be solid, and then on the back of that, let's see who gets bored with doing what we're doing, or they do what they're doing. And it turned out it was a good game. You know, it was a good game of football. But credit to our lads, they was growing and they was growing and they was growing. On the league level, that then, because we've all been there, when teams play you again, then they want to beat you because you're the team that beat Leeds. Well, that's another little thing that the lads learnt this year you've got to live with. If you want to be successful and go to the next levels and them pressures are there every day. And some of us and some of the, you know, the younger lads and what have you, that consistency thing again, still learning that, and they're still getting their fitnesses from the games again. And I keep on about it, but we had to throw people in because we knew in our heart of hearts that if we get the bright side on the pitch every week, we'll be a good game for everybody.
But we looked at that Leeds side and a lot of people thought, they're going to bring the kids down, but there were Spanish internationals, other European internationals playing the game, and we didn't just beat them and nick it 1-0, we comprehensively won the game, and we deserved to win by 3-0. Yeah,
and we could have won 4 if Max would have took his chance. Not putting the pressure on you, Max. But Max, 4-0, and to be fair to them after the game, they was very complimentary, they agreed. You know, all their players said, we wasn't at it. It happens. You know, like we got beat at Port Vale, it happens. You don't suddenly, I know it's not Leeds, but it doesn't matter who you're playing someday. You know, look how Liverpool season's been, and now a couple of the other bigger sides are struggling. It happens. But Leeds have reacted well, haven't they? And they're still mid-table in the Premier League, and there's us mid-table in the 3rd Division, which is, I think, is the highest we've been.
Since we came down from League One.
Yeah. So, you know, you look at it, I wouldn't say we've mirrored each other, but it's a success for both sides.
And in that Leeds game, obviously 3-0, but a goal for Naderson, a goal for Tunnicliffe, and that goal for Nick Cerula. I mean, what a moment for him coming into the team, obviously being let go from Brentford and being at Tottenham before, and being given that stage to score such a goal.
Well, that's what I say. It makes your careers. You know, one goal you could play the rest of his life now, and it couldn't happen to a nicer kid. You know, he's worked really hard to get his fitness after his car accident. But that's like a lot of our team. You'll be surprised at some of the stories, because you know we are a bit of a team, a bit like the Dirty Dozen. Everyone's got something to prove. Me included, Lee included. That you know we're still here, we're still in football, and we want to make a go of it. And it was a credit on that day. You know, Nick made his name, so to speak.
And the cup game also gave a stage for the two Wright brothers to make their debut for the club.
Yeah, everyone thought, getting on that with Mark, everyone thought it was a publicity stunt. We was desperate for players at the time. I knew Mark from playing here before, and I knew that, you know, I knew he wanted to be a player, and there was no half bold, you know, Mark was in it 100%.
Yeah.
As you well know, and once a novelty wore on, once people knew that it wasn't, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here and all that, Mark deserved to be in because we never had no cover. Simple as that. And he come on. Josh has come on. I've known Josh a long time. Who hasn't? We haven't. We're near seen the best of Josh yet. Josh had COVID very badly when he was at Orient. He's had a few knocks along the way, but once again, I've known Josh a long time, and he's great round the place. Listen, it was a good day had by all. Pity the fans weren't here to watch it.
And I think actually it was a great start for Josh in that game against in Bournemouth in the 4th round. He really shone and showed his talent, and I actually thought we were quite unlucky to lose that game down in Bournemouth. How was that for you?
Yeah, so did I. And it was funny because I was talking to Jason Hart, their manager, and when we scored the equaliser, you could actually see them. It was like an ice cube melting. because he was under a lot of pressure, and obviously, but there's a lot of controversy about that as well, because we was due to play Bournemouth when we had the COVID strike, when we had, I think it was 10 went down, I'm not sure, but I still wanted to play the game on the Saturday, because we had fit enough players. Okay, it wouldn't have been the ideal side, but I wanted to play the game because I knew that the league was more important, and the FA, to its wisdom, wouldn't let us play the cup game. They called it off, so it wasn't us called it off. We didn't wait, and when we went there, we had a weaker side than what we would have had in the first place, which I thought, and on a Tuesday night, which I thought was a little bit naughty. The same sort of scenario happened when we played Bradford. We was due to play Bradford, and Bradford called the game off on the Friday while we were travelling up there. And once again, the FA or the EFL, in their wisdom, whoever it was, decided to punish Crawley, because it was a punishment that we didn't play the game. Nothing to do with the pitch being frozen, it was the surrounding areas. Well, me in my most diplomatic, dulcet tones obviously say, well, what's the surrounding area? There's the terrace, and there's no one here. So why do we... Might not seem a lot now, but that led into that week where we had to go away. I think it was something absolutely ridiculous. The journeys that we had to do in a week where we hit the... People don't we had 5 games, I think it was, in 9 days or something, where we had to go. We played at home, then we went up to, on the Tuesday we had to go to Carlisle. So we travelled Monday. On the Thursday, we come back from Carlisle Wednesday, silly o'clock, leave again for Scunthorpe on the Thursday, play Scunthorpe on the Friday, then come back again, absolutely cream-crackered, played Oldham again on the Monday, got absolutely battered by Oldham, because we was walking around like the Walking Dead, and then played again on the Saturday. Why? We couldn't call any game. We couldn't have games called up, and then we still had to travel to Bradford in the midweek. So we've been tested everywhere. I know everyone says, "Oh, it's the same for every club," but you're looking at our resources, and our squad at the time was getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Nothing that the lads could do about it, because some of them were still, suffering little things from the COVID. Some had picked up little knocks, and once again, you couldn't play people that weren't 100%. Because you didn't want to lose them for the rest of the season.
And those fixtures really started to pile up because of that big gap between the Leeds game and that Bournemouth game when COVID struck within the club. How was that for you and the rest of the lads in the team?
Yeah, so I've just said, it was ridiculous, because it was so strange, because the COVID, some of our lads was tested on the Monday, who had COVID. On the Wednesday or the Friday, they didn't have COVID. So they could play again. But their wives and their families and all that, they had to still isolate for the 10 days. So we're going, well, we've got fit players that can play. Why are we not playing games? And then, listen, it was out of my hands. It was just so frustrating. But, God willing, everybody's come through it okay, but to suddenly have nobody, and a lot of the lads, they come out of the inner cities. There was a lot of the London boys that had it. So it wasn't like a general thing where you think, well, how comes he's got it and this one ain't, because you live in fear, because you think, well, once one's got it, woof, that's it, we're all waiting for the bells to ring and all that. But it was a strange time, and I know going on about the points, we still don't know how it's affected some people. So when you're a player and without naming names, you see players that couldn't run and couldn't breathe properly. It's a little bit daunting. You're thinking, blimey. And this was afterwards, and it's just a reaction now of this long COVID thing. So once again, that the fans didn't know, because they're not around and you can't tell people. We had to manage all that. It was, does he play, don't he play? Is he ill, is he not ill? And it was just the fact that it was very difficult, but we got through it.
We turned up to Bournemouth with such a stripped squad with loads of players out. I think we saw the Bournemouth team sheet and people thought again, they might play some younger players, but it was a near on full first team. And as I said before, I think we're unlucky not to get a result. I think there was an obvious penalty there with Tom Nichols as well in that second half.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
It was a good game. But yeah, talking to Jack Wiltshire and people like that I was with afterwards, they knew that with us being behind it and Brad is having his history at Bournemouth, they know that had to be on their game. and Josh King were laughing and that because they're laughing about the interviews and all this sort of thing. It was good to go back there and see the players, but I was really annoyed because we got beat. Why? Because I don't like losing. Why? Because, like you say, we was forced to play that game, which I think, without being too controversial, at that time there was clubs being allowed to do other things that we weren't allowed to be done. Why they wouldn't let us play the game a couple of weeks before, I don't know. They call it off, so you got to play it today. But we still ain't got enough fit players. Yes, you have. You've got blah 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 registered. Yeah, but it ain't going to be a contest.
Darren Philpott actually said, "What did you learn from your time at Bournemouth with the likes of Eddie Howe in the management group?"
Darren Philpott. It's a name from the past. All I learnt really, the first 3 years at Bournemouth was fantastic, and the last 4 years in the Premier League, it shows you how people can change with money, and that's from top to bottom. And it's not a nice sight when you see things happen that you didn't see. Eddie was he's good on the stats side of it, and his professional organisation. Me and Jason, Jason, it was all good. First of all, it was all positives at Bournemouth because we learnt about camaraderie. But what I learnt there was some of the things that I won't let happen to me again in life, which is not all positive, but it's very, very important that you keep your dressing room and your squad all on side. You keep everybody happy, and I don't mean happy through just playing. Make the place an enjoyable place to come and work for. And if you lose that through greed, through neglect, through thinking that you've arrived, it'll kill you.
We've actually got a few questions on that topic of keeping the morale up in the squad and enjoying your football. Julia Bainham says, what actually makes you smile the most and what motivates you the most as manager of Crawley?
Winning. It's like anything. I get accused sometimes of being miserable, and then I get accused of sometimes of laughing. The one thing that I think I am, sometimes to my own fault really, is you're too honest. And of course I get annoyed when we lose. Of course I get annoyed when someone shoves a microphone straight in your face. There was a fella on Sky the other week. We go and get beat 4-1, the last game of the season at Bolton, and the first stupid question he asked me, did it make a difference? Was it a difference to you? Did it upset your plans when George Frankham got sent off? Well, no, of course it didn't. We're playing with 10 men. What, and you're thinking, are you serious? Are you... So these little things are something I've got to learn. But of course I get annoyed. I get annoyed when we lose, the same way as I enjoy when I win. So winning makes me happy, and losing don't make me happy. But at the same token, the worst thing about being Crawley manager is some of the negativity through some of these people that hide behind the internet. I don't read it, but it's only that your family and friends do. Everyone's got an opinion. I don't mind an opinion. Yeah. But when you're just being negative to try and think you're funny or hard, or trying to think that you're one of the chaps, well, that don't affect me personally, but it makes you look stupid because the rest of the fans know you like to think of how hard it's been this season for every club and how hard it is for this club just to keep afloat every year. Well, get behind it, or, I don't know, go and support someone else if you want something to moan at.
Got a question. I don't know if you're aware of a Billy Kroll.
No.
He says, if you need a number 2 next season, I'm your man. I wouldn't say I was the best manager in the business, but I was in the top 1. So I thought you might have known him. You don't. But that also kind of leads to other questions we've got about Lee Bradbury in number 2, who is in at the moment, and how you've worked with him. How have you found it with Lee this season? What's he brought to the table? Oh,
listen, Lee has been the ultimate professional that he is. You don't have his career through being a numpty. We've got on, that's the most thing. We both think the same. Lee don't stand no old nonsense. I don't stand no old nonsense. He's played at the top level. I've worked with some players that have played at the top level, and we've been at the top level between us. We've been at Bournemouth, so we got that little bond of not liking Bournemouth very much. And also the lads get on with him. He's a football man, Lee. And same as myself. We're football people. Don't agree on everything. When it goes wrong, as I say to people, it's Lee's fault, and when it goes right, obviously it's my decision. But we don't, touch wood, we don't disagree on too much because we both got our ways of doing it. The thing is that if the players are buying into what we're doing, because I don't coach as much as I used to, for obvious reasons. Lee and Youngie now get involved, but I do when it comes to the shape and doing bits and pieces with the boys. But no, we've got on fantastically, and he's been I think he's a real good asset for the club. Knows a lot of people, the same as myself. But listen, would I change it? No. He's been fantastic.
We've got a question from Mike Wheeler who says, John, you've made our supporters proud with the cup run and our final league position, but where do you think you need to improve?
We need to improve our consistency, is what I said before. Everybody knows that we're a selling club. So, it'd be nice to think that you could hold on to a couple of players to achieve a little bit more. And we need to improve, I would say, the finances coming into the club, a bit more sponsorship or whatever, or finances, just being able to hold on to players for longer. Let's try and get a tune out, see where it could take us. Because as we've proved, it's no good. We was that close, but no cigar this year. And if we would have done what we could have done and with a bigger, I wouldn't say a bigger squad, but a more blended. We need a few more old heads around.
Sue Wheeler's actually said, John, Joe is leaving. Are you going to get a defender in?
Hopefully, we'll have to. As I said, it wasn't. I was part of the decision, but I was fighting tooth and nail to keep Joe here. And I think it just come purely down to what had gone on, because Joe was on an old contract and they didn't want to renew his contract. But as I said to you before, my opinion on Joe is he was great with me here, and it would be sorely missed.
One question we got actually from Lee and Green, and a few more people have mentioned it, is regarding Max Watters, and saying that obviously since he joined Cardiff, he's lacked game time in the first team. Will he be available for loan next season?
I spoke to Max, and obviously I speak to Cardiff people that I know there. It's a difficult one because Max is now a championship player. Would they send him to this level? I don't think so. Would I have Max back tomorrow? Of course I would. Yeah. Max has come back to see the lads. He's come back to games. He's shown about. He's said good things about everybody. Max was just Max, and you'd be stupid. I'd be sitting here absolutely out my nut to not say yes. Of course I'd have him back. I'd have him back tomorrow.
Ivan Knowles actually said, after the West Ham speculation, what's the latest on Rafiq Khalil?
Nothing. He's just a Crawley player. He went up to West Ham to do a bit of training up there. That was all. People that we know wanted to have a look at him. And this is what I'm saying to you about the rumour mills and these people that try and stir rubbish on websites and what have you. On about he should be playing in the first team, he should have been doing this, should have been that. If they're not careful, that turns people away from coming to your club because he's not ready for our first team. If I went to Port Vale or went to Harrogate with Raf in my side at his age, at 18 years of age, who's built like he's got to put a bit of meat on him, he's got skill-wise and that sometimes, you've got to be able to protect your kids, and all these people that suddenly telling me Raf should be doing this, I think they've only seen him play once. So, don't you think that if you don't trust the people that are running your team and running your club to be doing the best for your players, well, then it would affect my job, wouldn't it? Of course I'd want to put the best side out. So we thought he was ready and playing in front of Powley and Heskey, he would be. But in a minute, he's learning his trade.
Andy Salmon, a fan who's asked quite a few questions, has actually said, does he or does he not actually give a monkeys? Come on, Yemsy, I bet you do, really.
I give a monkeys about the club. What I don't give a monkeys about is people that keep coming up with all these negative thoughts, because it's very, very easy to keep telling people what we're not doing, but let's sometimes stop and sniff the roses and go, what have we done? Let's see where we are, let's see what we're going to do. Don't keep telling me what we're not doing. So no, I don't give a monkeys about them, because if they got anything, if it gets personal, then you start having a little moan up, and then but listen, we've had a great season. I feel that everyone keeps telling me we've had a great season. In my art of arts, I want it to do more. But we bought in over £1.5 million, I think it is, this year, for the football club.
Yeah.
With the cup run, with the sell of Max, that's on bits and pieces, and it's a pity the fans ain't here. I think there's a best result in the club's history, beating Leeds 3-0. I think it's the most that they've sold for one player, especially at this level. You've had players in the top, the sides, like you said earlier, for Tom, for the assists, Tully, all these people. Listen, you're Crawley Town. You're the second lowest budget in the league. Imagine that. That's the second lowest budget in the league. That's like getting in a Mini and getting second to Lewis Hamilton in a motor race, or getting 12th. And that's what we're doing. But I knew that. We know that in the job. It's not that I'm sitting here moaning, because, behind the scenes, everyone's working hard to keep the club going. How far and how much we want to push it, that's out of my hands.
I think Andy, as well as many other fans, has actually said, how many pre-season friendlies will there be in total, and will I be able to attend them?
I think you can. I think there's 9. We've got 9, because I want to have a look at players. We've got a lot of the local sides, which I don't think they do enough here. Being local, we got to support the local things. Yeah. We got to help the non-league clubs out, because they may be helping us out. It only proves it with Max and people like that when everyone says to me, is it worth watching this or worth watching that? Go and look at Max. Nobody wanted to take Max. Nobody wanted to know Max playing non-league. We did, and made the club £1 million, scored 16 goals, 18 goals. Yeah. So and it helps. It gets the name of Crawley Town about. You don't want to be suddenly become, we've arrived, look at us, because it ain't. You got to grow. You got to grow within. You got to want people on side of you.
Also, it will be able to give us a chance to showcase some of those players who haven't played as much in the league this season, in pre-season next season. Because,
as I said to you, next season, the Powleys and that become the senior pros. The kids then don't become the kids, because it'll be the new lot that's coming in. Well, then we start making judgments on people and picking first teams.
I think we'll finish with some silly questions. I think we've got Ben Blackmore, son of the famous Ken here at Crawley, says, John, do you keep your ketchup in the fridge or the cupboard?
I don't have ketchup.
What's your go-to sauce?
Nothing.
No sauce?
Don't have sauce. No, I think he's got too much sauce by the sound of it, like his old man.
We've got another one from Mark Underwood, who says, softball question, what do you have for breakfast on a match day?
Reporters.
You know what, that is the answer I was looking for. John, thank you very much for your time. It's been a fantastic season, and we'll look to improve next time round.
Yeah, well, let's just hope we get the backing. Let's just hope everybody carries on with it, and let's hope you're asked to, you're allowed to carry on and do what you're doing properly, which is trying to make the club as successful as it can be. Let's get the supporters behind us. Sometimes I do come across as a miserable git, but I think everybody deep down knows that, I do more than enough to back the club, the fans, everybody, because without the fans there wouldn't be a club. But let's not make a mistake. It's all about the 11 that are out there on a Saturday. That's what you pay your money for. And that's what you've got to try and make sure we do. We get the best 11 within our budget. You must remember that. That's one thing I say next year. There's no millions of pounds coming in from Max Watter's money. There's no millions of pounds coming in from cup runs. We will still have the second lowest budget in that league next year.
Thank you.
Ta.